I never thought a lazy Saturday morning fishing trip would blow up into a full-on war with my HOA, but here we are. And the craziest part? The same HOA that once fined me for unauthorized fishing now cuts me a check for $2,000 every month just to use my lake. Yeah, my lake. Life's funny like that. You think you're just baiting a hook, and somehow you end up reeling in justice. So here's how it all went down. I'd been living in Maple Ridge Landing, a quiet neighborhood outside Cedar Falls, Wisconsin, for about 3 years. After spending a decade bouncing around between military contracts and cybersecurity gigs, I finally wanted a place where the loudest thing I'd hear on a weekend morning was a lawnmower, maybe a dog barking 2 houses down. Maple Ridge seemed perfect. Clean streets, nice homes, and a peaceful 12-acre lake sitting right at the center like a shiny little promise. When I bought the place, the realtor bragged, "Residents love fishing out here. Bass, bluegill, whatever you like." And sure enough, for years nobody said a word when I walked down to the water with a rod. Fast forward to last April. Spring had finally shown up after a miserable Midwest winter. I'd promised my 12-year-old nephew, Eli, that I'd take him fishing as a late birthday present. The kid had been talking about it nonstop, the way kids do when something sticks in their brain like Velcro. When I picked him up, he practically sprinted out the door with his brand new rod like we were heading into battle. "Uncle Ryan, do you think I'll catch something huge today?" he asked. I ruffled his hair and said, "Buddy, if you don't, we'll lie and say you did." He giggled. It was perfect. We got to the lake, set up on the east shore, and for about an hour, man, life was good. Sun on the water, birds singing, Eli peppering me with questions. You ever have a moment where you feel like everything is exactly the way it should be? Yeah, that was it. And then, the storm arrived. Not a literal one. Worse, my HOA president, Cheryl Hopwood, a woman who walks like she's followed by her own theme music, marched toward us with her arms crossed tight and her lips pursed like she'd just smelled something rotten. Behind her trailed Greg, the neighborhood security guard, or rather, a guy who liked to pretend he was important by wearing a vest with too many pockets. Cheryl cleared her throat in that passive-aggressive way people do when they think the whole world is supposed to jump at their command. "Excuse me," she said, staring at us like we'd just robbed a bank. "Did you not see the new signs?" I scanned the area. "Oh, what signs?" Her eyebrows shot up so high I thought they'd disappear into her hairline. "Fishing is prohibited. As of last month." I blinked. "Since when?" "There's nothing posted. It was approved by the board and sent via community email." She tapped her tablet like she was issuing a national security directive. "You are in violation. A $500 fine will be issued immediately." Eli looked up at me, confusion spreading across his little face. "Are we in trouble?" And that was the exact moment something in me flipped. You know that feeling when someone embarrasses you in front of a kid? It hits different. It hits deeper. But I stayed calm. "Cheryl, I never received any email. And you can't make up rules out of thin air." Greg stepped forward, hand on his belt like he was auditioning for a cop show. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave the lake area." I wanted to say a lot of things right then. Things that would have definitely made the situation worse. But Eli was watching, wide-eyed, waiting for me to show him how adults handle conflict. So I packed us up, walked away, and Cheryl called after me. "I expect prompt payment, Mr. Carter." I didn't trust myself to respond. Later that night, after dropping Eli off, I couldn't shake the anger. It wasn't even about fishing anymore. It was about respect, fairness, basic decency. So around 2 a.m., fueled by leftover pizza and spite, I started digging. Emails, meeting minutes, HOA website, community postings. Nothing about a fishing ban. Then I dug deeper. County records, land parcels, development history. And that's when I found it, the crack in their armor. The lake wasn't HOA property at all. According to official records, the lake and the 12 acres around it were still listed under a development company that went bankrupt over a decade ago. The property never transferred to the HOA. Not legally, meaning the HOA had been making rules for land they didn't even own. I actually laughed out loud. It was 4 a.m., I hadn't slept, and I was laughing like a man who had finally found the enemy's weak spot. The next morning, I called my friend Sam Torres, a real estate attorney I'd served with overseas. I sent him every document I had. A few hours later, he called me back, excitement in his voice. "Ryan, Buddy, you're not going to believe this. Because you're a veteran and because your home borders unclaimed property, you can file a priority claim on it. If no one disputes it, that lake could legally be yours. I nearly dropped the phone. You're saying I could own it? Yep, all 12 acres. But keep your mouth shut until we file. And that's exactly what we did. Over the next week, Sam filed everything with the county. Meanwhile, the HOA bombarded me with more fines and threats. Failure to pay will result in a lien. Cheryl even stopped her SUV in front of my driveway one morning to glare at me like I'd insulted her ancestors. Then came the emergency HOA meeting. I wasn't invited, but I showed up anyway, with Sam, in a sharp suit, carrying a folder thicker than a Bible. Cheryl's face turned pink, then red, then a shade of purple I'd never seen on a human being. When the topic of ongoing fishing violations came up, I stood. I have documentation showing the HOA never legally notified residents of any rule change, I said. And more importantly, I have proof that the HOA does not own the lake. Gasps. Whispers. Someone actually dropped a pen. Cheryl sputtered. That's ridiculous. Of course we own the lake. Everyone knows that. Sam stepped forward. Then please provide the deed. Cheryl froze. For a full 5 seconds. Which is a long time when 50 people are staring at you. That meeting imploded faster than you can say mismanagement. Residents were furious and confused. Even other board members seemed blindsided. But I wasn't done. Because remember how Cheryl claimed the fishing ban was for wildlife preservation? Yeah, that was a lie. A big, stupid, sloppy lie. Turns out Cheryl and her husband had been secretly negotiating with a company called Harborview Docks to build a private marina on the lake. They would have personally profited from the deal. Tens of thousands of dollars. And the fishing ban? That was the first step toward restricting access before they turned the lake into a money machine. Residents were livid. One older guy shouted, "I've lived here 15 years and never seen such corruption." The room turned into a verbal tornado. Cheryl stormed out halfway through. 2 weeks later, my claim was approved. County certified. Stamped. Official. I was now the legal owner of Maple Ridge Lake. You ever feel so shocked you have to sit down? That was me. Sitting at my kitchen table staring at a deed with my name on it like it was a golden ticket. And the HOA? Well, they tried to fight it. They hired a pricey lawyer. Filed an injunction. Accused me of fraud. It all blew up in their face when the judge said, the HOA should have verified ownership before enforcing regulations. Cheryl looked like she'd swallowed a lemon whole. And then came the real turning point. I sent the HOA a formal notice. Effective immediately, the lake is private property. Unauthorized access is prohibited. However, the HOA may negotiate usage rights. Translation: pay me or stay out. A week later, the remaining board members, minus Cheryl, who had been removed after an ethics investigation, voted to accept my terms. $2,000 per month. For community fishing, picnics, and events. All maintained by me. I didn't gloat outwardly. Privately, oh, I absolutely celebrated with a cold beer and a victory lap around the lake. The best part? I turned part of the land into a weekend retreat for veterans. Peaceful fishing, small groups, mindfulness sessions, family events. Local businesses donated supplies. Residents volunteered. Even the new HOA president, a reasonable guy named Mark, helped with cleanup days. What started as a ridiculous $500 fishing fine turned into a community reborn and a safe haven for the people who served alongside me. And Cheryl? She and her husband sold their house at a loss and moved out of state. Rumor has it she still complains that I stole the community's lake. Funny how she never told anyone she planned to sell it from under them. As for Eli, the kid tells everyone, my uncle owns a lake. And yeah, his friends think it's the coolest thing ever. I took him fishing there last month. No fines, no threats, just peace. Sometimes I sit on the dock at sunrise, sipping coffee, watching the mist roll off the water, and I think about how all of this started because a small person wanted to feel powerful. Turns out, she picked the wrong guy to push around. So now I'll leave you with this. Was I right to fight back? Should HOA boards have this much power? And have you ever met someone like Cheryl? Someone who craves control more than common sense? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. Let's hear your HOA horror stories.